The security camera doesn't just catch burglars. It caught my heart breaking in a single kiss. Snow clung to the white painted window frames like it belonged there. Like it had always belonged. Ava used to think their house was a postcard come to life. Pine trees standing tall like guardians. The porch wrapped in Christmas lights year-round. A picket fence that had seen more squirrels than arguments. But lately, the silence between the walls had grown louder than the wind howling through the evergreens. From the outside, Ava and Emily were the picture of quiet happiness. Neighbors often waved with a smile that carried envy, seeing them hand in hand at weekend markets or kneeling side by side in the garden, brushing soil from each other's cheeks. They were that couple, the ones who always brought homemade scones to community events, the ones who laughed together too easily, forgave too quickly, the ones you thought would never fall apart. But snow is beautiful too, until it blinds you. Ava worked from home. Her days a calculated rhythm of shipments, inventory, and logistics data spread across a triple monitor setup. Her desk faced the back garden, where the frost painted white spirals across the glass like secrets trying to speak. Emily, meanwhile, was always in motion, teaching ballet at the elementary school, choreographing winter recitals, offering extra lessons. Her presence had grown elusive, like perfume that lingered longer than the person it came from. Lacey, their 8-year-old, adopted 5 years ago, had her own quiet world. She was small for her age, with curious eyes that seemed too old, too observant. She clutched her stuffed penguin the way other kids held tablets. There was something gentle about her silences, like she knew more than she should and had already decided it wasn't worth saying. It had started subtly. Emily's work hours stretched. She came home later, smelling faintly of unfamiliar cologne. Ava brushed it off at first. Schools were chaotic this time of year. She'd been tired too. Maybe they were both just distracted. But there were signs. The first time Ava suggested a weekend getaway, a remote cabin. No Wi-Fi, just them. Emily's lips curled into a polite smile that never reached her eyes. "Sounds nice," she said, voice drifting like fog. But the weekend came and went, unbooked and unspoken. A week later, Ava found Lacey sitting cross-legged on the bedroom floor, whispering to her doll. Her words were faint, but the sentence hit Ava like a dart through paper. "Mama Emily said not to tell Mama Ava about the purple car." That night, Ava stared at the ceiling until it turned to gray. Her chest felt tight, not like anger, not yet, just the growing sense that she was on the wrong side of a door slowly closing. The camera wasn't even meant for suspicion. Ava had installed it after a break-in on the next block. Just a simple motion-activated camera facing the side yard. She almost forgot it existed, until the morning it sent her a low storage alert. She clicked through the feed out of habit. The timestamp was 6:12 p.m., well after Emily should have been at work. She didn't expect to see motion. She certainly didn't expect to see her wife. Emily stood by the lilac tree, hair damp from melted snow. She was bundled in her black wool coat, but not alone. Another woman was there, tall, brunette, scarf fluttering like a flag. Their figures were close, too close, when Emily reached out, fingers brushing the woman's jawline like memorizing it. Ava stopped breathing. The kiss was slow, not a mistake, not something one trips into. It was the kind of kiss you give when you think no one's watching. Ava's hand didn't shake. She expected it to, but it was her stomach that turned. Quietly, as if the betrayal had settled in with the snow, soft and slow and absolute. In the days that followed, Ava played it calm. She made pancakes, asked about Emily's rehearsals, tucked Lacey in and read her bedtime stories. But beneath her skin, something had fractured, a splinter of glass behind the smile. She began noticing more. How Emily's laughter now came with hesitation. How her hugs felt rehearsed. When Emily talked, her eyes didn't hold Ava's anymore. They wandered, to the clock, the window, anywhere else. Lacey became more withdrawn. One night, Ava found her in the living room, staring at the darkened window. "Are secrets bad?" she asked softly. Ava crouched beside her. "Why do you ask that?" Baby. Lacey looked down, tracing the edge of her penguin's flipper. Because Mama Emily says some secrets keep people safe. But I don't feel safe. Ava didn't answer. She couldn't. There was a lump in her throat that tasted like snowfall, bitter and clean. She watched Emily the next morning as she left for school. The same coat, the same lie. Ava almost said something, almost begged for honesty, but the words froze before they could form. How do you confront a person who still smiles at you like they mean it, even as their heart is elsewhere? The house felt colder these days. The heating was fine. It was something else, the kind of cold that seeps from the inside out. The kind that frost can't explain. And Ava knew. She knew something had already cracked. But the question that haunted her wasn't why. It was when it had all begun. Because once, they'd danced in the kitchen barefoot. Once, they'd promised to never be the kind of couple who faded. And now Emily's eyes held a softness not for her, but for someone else. Someone who kissed her like Ava never could see. Sometimes love dies loudly. In Ava's case, it died with the silence of snow falling at midnight. And a camera that never lied. The Amazon package went missing, but I recovered a truth that no one should have to face. It started with something mundane. A missing box, a click, a timestamp, and then a door to something darker. That morning, Ava had barely slept. Her body had been in bed, but her mind was adrift, circling Emily's cold kisses and Lacey's whispers like a hawk waiting for something to land. She woke up with the kind of ache that starts in the soul and spreads outward. Wearing her body like too tight clothing. The notification came mid-morning, an Amazon delivery, the red jacket for Lacey. Ava opened the door but found only snow and absence. At first, she assumed a driver mistake. But when she checked the app, it confirmed delivery, 1:22 p.m. porch. Ava's hand hovered over the security app. It wasn't paranoia now, it was necessity. It gave her an excuse to look again. To investigate. Not her wife, just the package. That's what she told herself. The footage started normally, wind tugging at a hanging wreath. A squirrel darting across the porch rail. Then a figure appeared at the edge of the frame. Not in a uniform, no package in hand. It was a woman, and not just any woman. Not a stranger, not a thief. She walked up like she belonged, typed in the door code like she lived there, and disappeared inside. Ava didn't feel her breath leave. She didn't scream, her chest just folded in. Slow and quiet, like snow falling on itself. She dragged the timeline ahead. The next camera, living room. Emily. Her coat hung open, her scarf was in her hand. And her eyes, they weren't Emily's anymore. They were someone else's, softer, lost, caught. The woman from outside stood by the fireplace. She didn't hesitate, neither did Emily. Their bodies moved toward each other in synchrony, as if a signal had been given, like dancers who'd long rehearsed this forbidden waltz. Then the kiss. Ava stared, silent. It wasn't the kiss that wrecked her. It was the comfort, the familiarity, the practiced ease of two people who had done this before, who didn't feel the need to rush or hide, who believed they were safe. Ava closed the laptop with slow precision. Her palms had gone clammy. Her jaw clenched so tightly that pain spread through her temples. She sat down on the kitchen floor, knees pulled to chest, like a child trying to vanish. She didn't cry. She couldn't. Her body was conserving itself for something more brutal. That evening, she tried to cook dinner. Pasta, something Lacey liked, but when she reached for the salt, her hand shook so badly the bottle clattered across the counter. Lacey padded into the room, hugging her penguin. "Mama, Ava, are you cold?" "No," Ava whispered, eyes on the stove. "Just tired." But she wasn't tired, she was unraveling. Later that night, after Emily had said she needed to stay late at school again, Ava sat with Lacey on the couch. Her daughter's small body leaned into her side. Ava felt the warmth and the trust. And it nearly shattered her. "Hey, sweetheart," Ava said, her voice careful, almost too soft. "Do you remember who sometimes visits the house when Mama Ava is working or out?" Lacey stiffened slightly. Her hand clutched the penguin's flipper. It's okay, Ava said quickly. No one's in trouble. I just want to know if you ever feel scared or confused. Lacey's lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Then she turned her face toward the dark TV screen like she couldn't look her mother in the eye. Sometimes the tall lady comes. She smells like mint gum. Mama Emily says it's our little secret. The room spun. Do you like when she comes over? Lacey was quiet for a long time. Finally, she whispered, I'm scared if I tell. Mama Emily will go away. And I'll be left here alone. Ava felt something break then. Not just anger, not even heartbreak. It was guilt. She had been watching the cracks in her marriage form like frost patterns on glass. But while she was staring at Emily, she had missed how Lacey had been absorbing every vibration of tension. Every whisper behind closed doors. Every shift in tone. Now, the child didn't fear the truth. She feared abandonment. Ava bent down and pulled Lacey into her arms. The girl didn't resist. She was always so light, so easily held, so easily missed. I'm not going anywhere, Ava said into her daughter's hair, voice trembling. Even if everything else changes, I won't leave you. That night, Ava didn't sleep. She sat by the front window, watching snowfall under the orange glow of the porch light. She didn't know what to do yet. But the truth no longer lurked in shadows. It stood clearly in the middle of her home. And even in its coldness, it had given her something. Resolve. Not revenge. Not yet. But the understanding that pretending wasn't protection. It was permission. And Ava had just revoked it. I didn't install more cameras. I just rewatched what I once skimmed over like it meant nothing. It started with a file name. Ava sat in the dark. Only the pale light of her monitor casting shadows on her cheekbones. Snow whispered against the windows. Lacey was asleep. Emily was still at work, late. Again, the house was quiet, but her mind thrashed. The missing package had been the beginning. But it was only the most recent signpost on a road she hadn't wanted to admit she was walking. Tonight, she didn't want to look forward. She wanted to look back. So she opened the security folder on her external drive. Video files, organized by date and time, stretched back months. She had watched some of them before. Most were harmless. Squirrels, deliveries, Lacey playing in the yard. But she'd never really looked. Not like this. She scrubbed through recordings, frame by frame, her fingers trembling on the mouse. There, on a random Thursday in November, Emily's car pulled into the driveway at 2:13 p.m. Ava had assumed she was working at school. The next frame, the front door opened, and Emily stepped inside with her phone pressed to her ear. 14 minutes later, the neighbor, the same woman from the living room kiss, was walking down the street. No delivery bag, no purpose, just a casual stroll past their house, head turned slightly to the porch, as if checking something. Coincidence. Once. But it wasn't once. Ava kept watching, over and over. She found it. Emily arriving home for short midday stops. 15, 20 minutes. And always, the woman passed by. Sometimes with a coffee cup. Sometimes alone. Once with a small bag that disappeared after she left. The timestamps aligned too cleanly. The betrayal wasn't just in the present. It had been bleeding into their days for weeks. Months. The backyard footage was harder to go through. The angle wasn't perfect, but there were glimpses. The porch light at odd hours. Movement through frost-covered glass. A blanket once, spread out on the back deck, where Ava had never seen him spend time. It was floral, pink and yellow, not something Ava had bought, not something she would have kept. Ava froze the frame. Emily, and the neighbor, sitting together, leaning into each other, laughing. Ava leaned back in her chair, hand covering her mouth. Her throat burned, but she didn't cry. Her tears had learned patience. She opened a notebook. Not a confrontation, not yet. She began writing, not facts, questions. Why her? Why that woman? The one who borrowed sugar from Ava last Christmas? Who let Lacey play with her golden retriever? Who once told Ava, "You and Emily are the reason I still believe in love"? Each line of ink carved a hole in Ava's chest. What did I miss? Was it in the way she lingered too long at our fence? Did she ever look me in the eye when she came over? Did Emily laugh differently when she spoke to her? She stared at the paper for a long time. What kind of person cheats with the woman next door? And what kind of person lets her daughter unknowingly witness it? The questions didn't soothe her, but writing kept her from screaming. The next day, Ava tried something. At breakfast, she stirred Lacey's oatmeal slowly and glanced at Emily over the rim of her coffee cup. "Did you see Dana yesterday?" she asked casually. Emily's spoon paused. "Dana? Our neighbor." A beat, then a sip of water. "Not really. Why?" She waved at me, said she hadn't seen us in a while. Emily's eyes narrowed just enough for Ava to notice. Then came the smile. Too calm, too placed. Maybe she's just being polite. Ava said nothing. Emily reached across the table to adjust Lacey's napkin. "Anyway, let's not get paranoid. It's not good for Lacey to hear that kind of stuff." The temperature in the room didn't change, but Ava felt something in her freeze anyway. Not good for Lacey. She was using the daughter like a shield. The rest of the day passed in a daze. Ava cleaned a kitchen that didn't need cleaning. She walked around the block with Lacey twice. She smiled at Dana from across the yard and received a wave in return that was too cheerful. Too bright. That night, she wrote again. "She talks to me like I'm the one who's sick. Like I'm breaking something fragile. But it's already broken, and she's the one who dropped it." And still, she said nothing, because she wasn't done watching. Because when betrayal is quiet, sometimes the only way to hear it is to listen harder. And Ava was listening. She wasn't a fool anymore. She was a woman waiting to catch the lie mid-breath. And she was getting closer. I didn't say a word. I just left a USB on the table, and a smile that had already died. It was snowing again the morning Ava packed. Not dramatically, just soft, persistent flakes falling like static, coating the world in quiet denial. She moved through the house as if she were just cleaning, folding clothes, sealing a box, unplugging a lamp. Nothing rushed, nothing angry. Emily was out, supposedly at a faculty meeting. Ava didn't ask for proof. She no longer needed it. She chose her items carefully. A week's worth of clothes for herself and Lacey. Important documents. Lacey's favorite books. The photo of the three of them at the pumpkin patch. One of the last times Ava remembered feeling real joy. The USB was small, black, innocuous. Ava placed it gently in the center of the coffee table, beside a folded piece of paper. Her handwriting was steady, measured. "This is the truth. I don't need your explanation." There were no accusations, no farewell, just a final act of clarity. The file on the USB was short. A compilation, edited with a trembling hand but unwavering resolve. It included the footage from the living room kiss, the porch embraces, and the backyard picnic that wasn't innocent. Ava had trimmed it carefully, removing her voice, her presence. It wasn't about her, it was about the truth being seen. Unmistakably. She didn't want revenge, she wanted freedom. By the time Emily returned, the house had changed. It still held furniture, the smell of coffee, Lacey's drawings on the fridge. But it didn't hold Ava. Emily called once. Ava declined. Then again, she silenced it. Then the messages. "Where are you? Please talk to me, Ava. Please, we can explain this. It's not what it looks like. Come home, please." Ava blocked the number. She and Lacey were already checked into a quiet Airbnb near Horseshoe Bay. 1 bedroom, fireplace, close enough to the ocean that they could hear waves when the wind shifted. Lacey didn't ask questions. She just curled into Ava's side that night and whispered, "Is this our new home?" "For now," Ava answered, "but it'll be safe." The next storm came online. Ava hadn't shared the clip. She hadn't even planned to. But she had sent it to one person, her friend Claire. Someone from university who ran a private support forum for LGBTQ+ women dealing with betrayal or domestic heartbreak. Ava had asked her to keep it confidential. Claire promised. But somewhere in that thread, someone shared it. It ended up on a popular Reddit forum. Then Twitter. Then Facebook. The comments were fast and vicious. She's kissing someone in broad daylight like no one's watching. Wasn't that woman a preschool teacher? Unbelievable, with her daughter probably in the house. Disgusting. Some users recognized the neighborhood. A few tagged the local school board. By morning, the clip had over 400,000 views. Emily's name was trending in local hashtags. So was Dana's. Ava didn't comment, didn't repost, she just watched it burn from a distance. She felt no pleasure, only a deep, still ache, not just because her wife had cheated, but because the woman she thought she loved was capable of that kind of silence. That kind of hypocrisy. Emily had always said, "We build our home every day. It's not made of walls, it's made of choices." Now Ava saw the rot had started years ago. Beneath the tiles, between the promises, another message slipped through, this time from a mutual friend. "Emily's been put on leave. Dana too. Parents are furious. She's been trying to reach you." Ava didn't reply. Instead, she opened her notebook again. "I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates. I didn't demand an apology. I just left." That was the scream. That was the broken glass. She thought of confronting Emily once, just once, looking her in the eye and asking why. But what would it change? Ava had watched the betrayal in full color. She had heard Lacey whisper that she didn't feel safe. She didn't need more noise. Silence, wielded right, could be a scream. She tucked Lacey in that night with no weight in her chest. Just a quiet emptiness, like a room after the storm has passed. Windows cracked but still standing. The truth had spoken. It had torn open everything. But Ava had walked out before it buried her. "I didn't win, but for the first time, I stopped letting myself lose." The sea air smelled different here. Ava stood on the porch of their new place. A weathered bungalow tucked on the edge of a small town near the coast. Salt lingered in every breath. There was no snow today, just wind. And the cry of distant gulls. She watched Lacey run barefoot in the yard. Chasing nothing, laughing. It had been 3 months. The headlines had faded. The messages had stopped. The clip had been buried under newer scandals. More viral heartbreaks. Emily had stopped trying. Or maybe she had run out of numbers to call from. Ava didn't keep track. Here, she worked from home again, her monitors set up in a sunlit corner of the living room. She brewed coffee every morning at 7 a.m., just like before. Only now there was 1 mug, not 2. The silence no longer screamed. Lacey had started at a new school. She made a friend named June. She called Ava to her room more often, just to talk. Some nights she still had trouble sleeping. Ava would sit by her bedside and rub small circles on her back until the tension faded. Healing didn't feel like triumph. It felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. One afternoon, Ava got an email from a woman named Carmen, the host of a growing podcast series titled, What We Leave Behind. She had seen the forum post. She knew Ava hadn't spoken publicly. She asked, gently, if Ava might consider joining one episode. Not to name names, just to share what it means to survive a betrayal from someone you once built a future with. Ava thought about it for a week. Then she said yes. They recorded the episode remotely. Ava sat by her window. Ocean breeze flickering the curtain. Her voice steady. She didn't tell the whole story. But she shared the truth that mattered. I didn't find out through violence. There was no screaming, no fists, no doors slamming. They didn't betray me with a knife. They did it with a kiss. A kiss exchanged right in the home we built. Right where our child played. Right where I thought I was safe. There was a pause. Carmen whispered, "That's going to stay with people." Ava didn't want it to go viral. She just wanted it to be real. That night, she turned off her phone and joined Lacey on the balcony. They sat with hot chocolate and mismatched socks, watching clouds drift across a pale moon. "Do you miss the old house?" Lacey asked quietly. Ava didn't answer right away. She looked out toward the dark water, listening to the tide. Lacey leaned against her leg. "Will we go back someday?" Ava touched her daughter's hair. "No, sweetheart, we're already home." Lacey blinked up at her. "Even though it's not the same?" Ava smiled. Not the kind from before. Not the forced one. A new one. Small. Earned. Home isn't walls. It's wherever I can keep you safe in my arms. Lacey nodded, as if that answer was more than enough. Later that night, after she put her to bed, Ava stood at the window alone. The reflection staring back wasn't the woman who found the footage, or the woman who left a USB on a table, or the woman who wrote in a notebook to keep from screaming. This was a woman who chose herself. Not for revenge, not to win, but to stop losing. There were still quiet aches, songs she couldn't listen to, colors she avoided in stores. But they no longer controlled her. They passed through her like the wind off the sea. The past didn't vanish. It simply became a shadow that no longer decided her shape. And as the tide rolled in again, Ava whispered to no one, "We're okay, we're finally okay," and she meant it.